Okay, hello. Oh god, it's been. Actually, it's not been a while, it's fine. It's. I feel like you should just be used to the fact that I end up taking at least a month off from. Like, not a month, a week off from streaming. I get so busy. Oh, the woes of working full time, I guess. We have a new client at work, and we had another project going on at the same time. It's still going on, but it's calmed down a bit. But yeah, I've just been busy with that. I don't enjoy overtime as much as the other person, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. Anyways, yeah, so I was working on that. I think it just should be a given that at least once a month I'm not going to be around for streaming, at least, because I got things to do. It sounds like such a shitty reason, but that's all I have. Oh god, I am so tired, but I really wanted to do this, so yeah. Let's get started. We have limited time with each other, anyways. We can talk about me and my work life later. Okay, hold on. Okay. Right. So the last time we left off, she had deduced that Edward is a vampire. They had a talk and they started hanging out, and everyone was scandalized. They're like, oh my god, they're hanging out. Okay, let's see. Chapter 11. God, we're only at chapter 11. Anyways, chapter 11, Complications. Everyone watched us as we walked together to our lap table, and noticed that he no longer angled the chair to sit as far from me as the desk would allow. Instead, he sat quite close beside me, our arms almost touching. Mr. Banner backed into the room then. What superb timing the man had, pulling a tall metal frame on wheels that held a heavy-looking outdated TV and VCR. A movie day. The lift in the class atmosphere was almost tangible. Mr. Banner shoved the tape into the reluctant VCR and walked to the wall to turn off the lights. And then, as the room went black, I was suddenly hyper aware that Edward was sitting less than an inch away from me. I was stunned by the unexpected electricity that flowed through me, amazed that it was possible to be more aware of him than I already was. A crazy impulse to reach over and touch him, to stroke his perfect face just once in the darkness, nearly overwhelmed me. I crossed my arms tightly across my chest, my hands balling into fists. I was losing my mind. Is it that serious? Or have I just forgotten what it's like to have a crush on a real human being? It's probably that. Okay, anyways. The opening credits began, lighting the room by a token amount. My eyes, of their own accord, flickered to him. I smiled sheepishly as I realized his posture was identical to mine, fists clenched under his arms, right down to the eyes, peering sideways at me. He grinned back, his eyes somehow managing to smolder even in the dark. Oh, give it a rest, Bella. I looked away before I could start hyperventilating. It was absolutely ridiculous that I should feel dizzy. The hour seemed very long. I couldn't concentrate on the movie. I didn't even know what subject it was on. I tried unsuccessfully to relax, but the electric current that seemed to be originating from somewhere in my body never slackened. Occasionally, I would permit myself a quick glance in his direction, but he never seemed to relax either. The overpowering craving to touch him also refused to fade, and I crushed my fists safely against my ribs until fingers were aching with effort. I breathed a sigh of relief, and Mr. Banner flicked the lights back on at the end of the class and stretched my arms out in front of me, flexing my still fingers. Edward chuckled beside me. I love how they've had this whole paragraph about how much he's like struggling to not touch him while he's struggling not to kill her and eat her. Just normal teenage struggles, you know. So normal. Well, that was interesting, he murmured. His voice was dark and his eyes were cautious. Was all I was able to respond. Shall we? He asked, rising fluidly. I almost groaned. Time for gym. I stood with care, worried my balance might have been affected by strange new intensity between us. He walked me to my next class in silence and paused at the door. I turned to say goodbye. His face startled me. His expression was stone, almost pained, and so fiercely beautiful that the ache to touch him flared as strong as before. Frustratingly beautiful, fiercely beautiful, angel in agony. I think that was one of the lines, right? Used to describe him. Might as well be. It's as ridiculous as the rest. My goodbye stuck in my throat. He raised his hand, hesitant, conflict raging in his eyes, and then swiftly brushed the length of my cheekbone with his fingertips. His skin was as icy as ever, but the trail his fingers left on my skin was alarmingly warm. Like I'd been burned, but didn't feel the pain of it yet. He turned without a word and strode quickly away from me. I walked into the gym, light-headed and wobbly. I drifted to the locker room, changing in a trance-like state, only vaguely aware that there were other people surrounding me. Reality didn't fully settle in until I was handed a racket. It wasn't heavy, yet it felt very unsafe in my hand. I could see I could see a few of the other kids in class eyeing me. Coach Clapp ordered us to pair up in teams. Mercifully, some vestiges of Mike's chivalry still survived. He came to stand beside me. Do you want to be a team? Thanks, Mike. You don't have to do this, I grimaced apologetically. Don't worry, I'll keep out of your way, he grinned. Sometimes it was so easy to like Mike. It didn't go smoothly. I somehow managed to hit myself in the head with my racket and clip Mike's shoulder on the same swing. I spent the rest of the hour in the back corner of the court, the racket held safely behind my back. Despite being handicapped by me, Mike was pretty good. He won 3 games out of the 4 single-handedly. He gave me an unearned high five when the coach finally blew the whistle ending class. So, he said as he walked off the court. So what? You and Cullen, huh? He asked, his tone rebellious. My previous feeling of affection disappeared. That's none of your business, Mike, I warned, internally cursing Jessica straight to the fiery pits of Hades. You can say hell like the rest of us. It's okay to say hell. That's why I can't believe Bella is a teenager, because she says things like fiery pits of Hades and holy crow. Like, what's wrong with saying holy cow? Like, if you're already saying holy crow, might as well just drag the cow into this. It's already there. I don't like it, he muttered anyway. You don't have to like it, I snapped. He looks at you like you're something to eat, he continued, ignoring me. How do you look at a person like that? Like, what is your expression? Like, do people have a certain expression when they're about to eat food? That they're like, oh my god, I can see how hungry you are. Like, I don't get that. I've never seen that expression on anybody, so I guess that's why I'm like very confused, but still. I choked back the hysteria that threatened to explode, but a small giggle managed to get out despite my efforts. He glowered at me. I waved and fled to the locker room. I dressed quickly, something stronger than butterflies battering recklessly against the walls of my stomach. My argument with Mike already a distant memory. I was wondering if Edward would be waiting, or if I should meet him at his car. What if his family was there? I felt a wave of real terror. Did they know what I knew? Was I supposed to know that they knew that I knew, or not? By the time I walked out of the gym, I had just about decided to walk straight home without even looking towards the parking lot, but my worries were unnecessary. Edward was waiting, leaning casually against the side of the gym, his breathtaking face untroubled now. As I walked to his side, I felt a peculiar sense of release. Hi, I breathed, smiling hugely. Hello. His answering smile was brilliant. How was Jim? My face fell a tiny bit. Fine, I lied. Really? He was unconvinced. His eyes shifted their focus slightly, looking over my shoulder and narrowing. I glanced behind me to see Mike's back as he walked away. What? I demanded. His eyes slid back to mine, still tight. Newton's getting on my nerves. You weren't listening again. I was horror-struck. All traces of my sudden good humor vanished. How's your head? He asked innocently. You're unbelievable. I turned, stopping away in the general direction of the parking lot, though I hadn't ruled out walking at this point. He kept up with me easily. You were the one who mentioned how I'd never seen you in gym. It made me curious. He didn't sound repentant, so I ignored him. We walked in silence, a furious, embarrassed silence on my part, to his car. But I had to stop a few steps away. A crowd of people, all boys, were surrounding it. Then I realized they weren't surrounding the Volvo. They were actually circled around Rosalie's red convertible, unmistakable lust in their eyes. None of them even looked up as Edward slid between them to open the door. I climbed quickly into the passenger seat, side also unnoticed. Ostentatious, he muttered. What kind of car is that? I asked. An M3. I don't speak car and driver. It's a BMW. He rolled his eyes, not looking at me, trying to back out without running over the car enthusiasts. I nodded. I'd heard of that one. Hasn't everyone? Okay. Are you still angry? He asked as he carefully maneuvered his way out. Definitely. He sighed. Will you forgive me if I apologize? Maybe, if you mean it, and if you promise not to do it again, I insisted. His eyes were suddenly shrewd. How about if I mean it and I agree to let you drive Saturday? He countered my conditions. I considered and decided it was probably the best offer I would get. Deal, I agreed. Then I'm very sorry I upset you. His eyes burned with sincerity for a protracted moment, playing havoc with the rhythm of my heart, and then turned playful. I'll be on your doorstep bright and early Saturday morning. It doesn't help this with the Charlie situation if an unexplained Volvo is left in the driveway. His smile was condescending now. I wasn't intending to bring a car. How? He cut me off. Don't worry about it. I'll be there. No car. I let go. I had a more pressing question. Is it later yet? I asked significantly. He frowned. I suppose it is later. I kept my expression polite as I waited. He stopped the car. I looked up surprised. Of course, we were already at Charlie's house, parked behind the truck. It was easy to ride with him if I only looked when it was over. When I looked back at him, he was staring at me, measuring with his eyes. And you still want to know why you can't see me hunt? He seemed solemn, but I thought I saw a trace of humor deep in his eyes. Well, I clarified, I was mostly wondering about your reaction. Did I frighten you? Yes, there was definitely humor there. No, I lied. He didn't buy it. I apologized for scaring you. He persisted with a slight smile, but then all evidence of teasing disappeared. It was just the very thought of you being there while we hunted. His jaw tightened. That would be bad. He spoke from between clenched teeth. Extremely. Because? He took a deep breath and stared through the windshield in the thick rolling clouds that seemed to press down, almost within reach. When we hunt, he spoke slowly, unwillingly, we give ourselves over to our senses, govern less with our minds, especially our sense of smell. If you were anywhere near me when I lost control that way. He shook his head, still gazing morosely at the heavy clouds. I kept my expression firmly under control, expecting the swift flash of his eyes to judge my reaction that soon followed. My face gave away nothing. But our eyes held and the silence deepened and changed. Flickers of the electricity I'd felt this afternoon began to charge the atmosphere as he gazed unrelentingly into my eyes. It wasn't until my head started to swim that I realized I wasn't breathing. When I drew in a jagged breath, breaking the stillness, he closed his eyes. Bella, I think you should go inside now. His low voice was rough, his eyes on the clouds again. I opened the car and the arctic draft that burst into the car helped clear my head. Afraid I might stumble into my woozy state, I stepped carefully out of the car and shut the door behind me without looking back. The whir of the automatic window unrolling made me turn. Oh, Bella? He called after me, his voice more even. He leaned towards the open window with a faint smile on his lips. Yes? Tomorrow it's my turn. Your turn to what? He smiled wider, flashing his gleaming teeth, asked the questions. And then he was gone, the car speeding down the street and disappearing around the corner before I could even collect my thoughts. I smiled as I walked to the house. It was clear he was planning to see me tomorrow, if nothing else. That night, Edward starred in my dreams as usual. However, the climate of my unconsciousness had changed. It thrilled with the same electricity that had charged the afternoon, and I tossed and I turned, restlessly waking often. It was only in the early hours of the morning that I really finally sank into an exhausted, dreamless sleep. When I woke, I was still tired, but edgy as well. I pulled on my brown turtleneck and the inescapable jeans, sighing as I dreamed of spaghetti straps and shorts. Breakfast was the usual quiet event as I expected. Charlie fried eggs for himself. I had my bowl of cereal. I wondered if he had forgotten about this Saturday. He answered my unspoken question as he stood up to take his plate to the sink. About this Saturday, he began, walking across the kitchen and turning on the faucet. Hi, Sue. How are you? I cringed. Yes, Dad? Are you still set on going to Seattle? He asked. That was the plan, I grimaced, wishing he hadn't brought it up so I wouldn't have to compose careful half truths. He squeezed some soap onto his plate and swirled it around with the brush. And you're sure you can't make it back in time for the dance? I'm not going back. I'm not going to the dance, Dad, I glared. Didn't anyone ask you? He asked, trying to hide his concern by focusing on rinsing the plate. I sidestepped the minefield. It's a girl's choice. Oh, he frowned as he dried his plate. I sympathized with him. It must be a hard thing to be a father, living in fear that your daughter would meet a boy she liked, but also having to worry if she didn't. How ghastly it would be, I thought, was shuddering if had even the slightest inkling of exactly what I did like. Charlie left then with a goodbye wave, and I went upstairs to brush my teeth and gather my books. When I heard the cruiser pull away, I could only wait a few seconds before I had to peek out my window. The silver car was already there, waiting in Charlie's spot on the driveway. I bounded down the stairs and out the front door, wondering how long this bizarre routine would continue. I never wanted it to end. He waited in the car, not appearing to watch as I shut the door behind me without bothering to lock the deadbolt. I walked to the car, pausing, pausing shyly before opening the door and stepping in. He was smiling, relaxed, and as usual, perfect and beautiful to an excruciating degree. This was funny at first, but now I just want to smack her. Stop it! Stop it! Good morning, his voice was silky. How are you today? His eyes roamed over my face as if his question was something more than simple courtesy. Good, thank you. I was always good, much more than good, when I was near him. His gaze lingered on the circles under my eyes. You look tired. I couldn't sleep, I confess, automatically swinging my hair around my shoulder to provide some measure of cover. Neither could I, he teased as he started the engine. I was becoming used to the quiet purr. I was sure the roar of my truck would scare me whenever I got to drive it again. I laughed. I guess that's right. I suppose I slept just a little bit more than you did. I'd wager you did. So, what did you do last night? I asked. He chuckled. Not a chance. It's my day to ask questions. Oh, that's right. What do you want to know? My forehead creased. I couldn't imagine anything about me that would be in any way interesting to him. What's your favorite color? He asked, his face grave. I rolled my eyes. It changes from day to day. What's your favorite color today? He was solemn. Probably brown. I tended to dress according to my mood. He snorted, dropping his serious expression. Brown? He asked skeptically. Sure, brown is warm. I miss brown. Everything that's supposed to be brown. Tree trunks, rocks, dirt. It's all covered with squashy green stuff here, I complained. He seemed fascinated by my little rant. He considered for a moment, staring into my eyes. Considered what? Okay then. Keep your secrets. You're right, he decided, serious again. Brown is warm. He reached over swiftly, but somehow still hesitant to sweep my hair behind my shoulder. Murder. No, that's what I'm considering. I am considering murder because if I have to hear how excruciatingly beautiful Edward is, I'm gonna lose my mind. Like, you're taking this gag too far, Stephanie. We were at the school by now. He turned back to me as he pulled into a parking space. What music is in your CD player right now? He asked, his face as somber as if he'd asked for a murder confession. I realized I'd never removed the CD Phil had given me. When I said the name of the band, he smiled crookedly, a peculiar expression in his eyes. He flipped open a compartment under his car's CD player, pulled out one of the 30 or so CDs that were jammed into the small space, and handed it to me. Debussy did this? He raised an eyebrow. It was the same CD. I examined the familiar cover art, keeping my eyes down. It continued like that for the rest of the day. While he walked me to English, when he met me after Spanish, all through the lunch hour, he questioned me relentlessly about every insignificant detail of my existence. Movies I'd liked, hated, a few places I'd been, the many places I wanted to go, and books. Endlessly books. My god, that sounds horrifying if someone just kept asking me questions. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite song? What's your favorite season? What's your favorite month? I would start crying, like literally start crying, like please leave me alone. I'm begging you here. I couldn't remember the last time I talked so much. More often than not, I felt self-conscious, certain I must be boring him. But the absolute absorption of his face and his never-ending stream of questions compelled me to continue. Mostly his questions were easy, only a few triggering my easy blushes. But when I did flush, it brought on a whole new round of questions. Such as the time he asked my favorite gemstone and I blurted out topaz before thinking. He'd been flinging questions at me with such speed that it felt like I was taking one of those psychiatric tests where you answer the first word that comes to mind. I was sure he would have continued down whatever mental list he was following, except for the blush. My face reddened because, until very recently, my favorite gemstone was garnet. It was impossible, while staring back into his topaz eyes, not to remember the reason for the switch, and naturally, he wouldn't rest until I'd admitted why I was embarrassed. Tell me, he finally commanded after persuasion failed. Failed only because I kept my eyes safely away from his face. It's the color of your eyes today, I sighed, surrendering, staring down at my hands as I fiddled with a piece of my hair. I suppose if you asked me in 2 weeks, I'd say onyx. I'd given more information than necessary in my unwilling honesty, and I worried it would provoke the strange anger that flared whenever I slipped and revealed too clearly how obsessed I was. But his pause was short. What kind of flowers do you prefer? He fired off. I sighed in relief and continued with psychoanalysis. Biology was a complication again. Edward had continued with his quizzing up until Mr. Banner entered the room, dragging the audio-visual frame again. As the teacher approached the light switch, I noticed Edward slide his chair slightly farther away from mine. It didn't help. As soon as the room was dark, there was the same electric spark, the same restless craving to stretch my hand across the short space and touch his cold skin, as yesterday. I leaned forward on the table, resting my chin on my folded arms, my hidden fingers gripping the table's edge as I fought to ignore the irrational longing that unsettled me. I didn't look at him, afraid that if he was looking at me, it would only make self control that much harder. I sincerely tried to watch the movie, but at the end of the hour, I had no idea what I'd just seen. I sighed in relief again when Mr. Banner turned on the lights, finally glancing at Edward. He was looking at me, his eyes ambivalent. My god, what is happening here? He rose in silence and then stood still, waiting for me. We walked towards the gym in silence like yesterday, and also like yesterday, he touched my face wordlessly. This time with the back of his cool hand, stroking once from my temple to my jaw, before he turned and walked away. Jim passed quickly as I watched Mike's one-man badminton show. He didn't speak to me today, either in response to my vacant expression or because he was still angry about our squabble yesterday. Somewhere in a corner of my mind, I felt bad about that, but I couldn't concentrate on him. I hurried to change afterwards, ill at ease, knowing the faster I moved, the sooner I would be with Edward. The pressure made me more clumsy than usual, but eventually I made it out the door, feeling the same release when I saw him standing there, a wide smile automatically spreading across my face. He smiled in reaction before launching into more cross-examination. His questions were different now, though not as easily answered. He wanted to know what I missed about home, insisting on descriptions of anything he wasn't familiar with. We sat in front of Charlie's house for hours as the sky darkened and rain plummeted all around us in a sudden deluge. I tried to describe impossible things like the scent of creosote, bitter, slightly resinous, but still pleasant. The high keening sound of the... Okay, this is not how a teenager thinks. Like, which teenager is using these words? I just want to know. My god. The feathery barrenness of the trees, the very size of the sky, extending wide blue from horizon to horizon, barely interrupted by the low mountains covered with purple volcanic rock. The hardest thing to explain was why it was so beautiful. To justify a beauty that didn't depend on the sparse, spiny vegetation that often looked half dead, a beauty that had more to do with the exposed shape of the land, with the shallow bowls of valleys between craggy hills, and the way they held on to the sun. I found myself using my hands as I tried to describe it to him. His quiet, probing questions kept me talking freely, forgetting in the dim light of the storm to be embarrassed for monopolizing the conversation. Finally, when I had finished detailing my cluttered room at home, he paused instead of responding with another question. Are you finished? I asked in relief. Charlie! I suddenly recalled his existence and sighed. I looked out at the rain-darkened sky, but it gave away nothing. How late is it? I wondered out loud as I glanced at the clock. I was surprised by the time Charlie would be arriving, would be driving home now. It's Twilight, Oh my god. Oh my god. It's Twilight, Edward murmured, looking at the western horizon, obscured as it was with clouds. Name drop. His voice was thoughtful, as if his mind was somewhere far away. I stared at him as he gazed unseeingly out the windshield. I was still staring when his eyes suddenly shifted back to mine. It's the safest time of day for us, he said, answering the unspoken question in my eyes. The easiest time, but also the saddest, in a way. The end of another day, the return of night. Darkness is so predictable, don't you think? He smiled wistfully. Isn't daytime also predictable? I know, I don't get it. Also, R.I.P. Charlie, his existence is unimportant to us, though. Charlie deserves better. Charlie deserves a Carlisle Cullen. I like the night. Without the dark, we'd never see the stars, I frowned. Not that you see them much here. He laughed and the mood abruptly lightened. Charlie will be here in a few hours, so unless you want to tell him that you'll be with me Saturday, he raised one eyebrow. Thanks, but no thanks. I gathered my books, realizing I was stiff from sitting still so long. So is it my turn tomorrow then? Certainly not. His face was teasingly outraged. I told you I wasn't done, didn't I? What more is there? You'll find out tomorrow. He reached across to open my door for me, and his sudden proximity sent my heart into frenzied palpitations, but his hand froze on the handle. Not good, he muttered. What is it? I was surprised to see his jaw was clenched, his eyes disturbed. He glanced at me for a brief second. Another complication, he said glumly. He flung the door open in one swift movement and then moved, almost cringed swiftly away from me. The flash of headlights through the rain caught my attention as a dark car pulled up to the curb just a few feet away from us. Charlie's around the corner, he warned, staring through the downpour at another vehicle. I hopped out at once, despite my confusion and curiosity. The rain was louder as it glanced off my jacket. I tried to make out the shapes in the front seat of the other car, but it was too dark. I could see Edward illuminated in the glare of the new car's headlights. He was still staring ahead, his gaze locked on something or someone I couldn't see. His expression... where was I? His expression was a strange mix of frustration and defiance. Then he rapped the engine and the tires squealed against the wet pavement. The Volvo was out of sight in seconds. Hey Bella, called a familiar husky voice from the driver's side of the little black car. Jacob? I asked, squinting through the rain. Just then, Charlie's cruiser swung around the corner, his lights shining on occupants of the car in front of me. Jacob was already climbing out, his wide grin visible through the darkness. In the passenger seat was a much older man, a heavy-set man with a memorable face, a face that overflowed, the cheeks resting against his shoulder, with creases running through the russet skin like an old leather jacket. And this surprisingly familiar face, black eyes that seemed at the same time both too young and too ancient for the broad face they were set in. Jacob's father, Billy Black. I knew him immediately, though in the more than 5 years since I had seen him last, I'd managed to forget his name when Charlie had spoken of him my first day here. He was staring at me, scrutinizing my face, so I smiled tentatively at him. His eyes were wide as in shock or fear, his nostrils flared. My smile faded. Another complication, Edward had said. Billy still stared at me with intense, anxious eyes. I groaned internally. Had Billy recognized Edward so easily? Could he really believe the impossible legends his son scoffed at? The answer was clear in Billy's eyes. Yes. Yes, he could. Can we do another chapter? Do I have time? Let me see. Of course, it's a long one. When is it not a long one? Stephanie, you never know when to shut the fuck up, do you? Yeah, we don't have time for this. Oh my god, she is... That is a lot of pages. Yeah, I don't have time for that. I mean, I think I could manage 2 chapters if I don't make jokes, but then, like, what is the point if I can't make jokes? So, like, that's the whole point of this. Anyways. Oh god, it's been a while. Okay, it's not been a while. I need to stop saying it's been a while because it really hasn't. Hold on, let me just. Yeah, there we go. This was fun until, but like this woman has described how beautiful Edward is so many times that now I just want to punch something. It's like at least once every chapter, if not. See, the usual is more than once, like multiple times, as many. Oh, Edward is so beautiful as she can, shove in there. But it's every chapter. I didn't even realize. At first, it was funny, but now, now I'm just like, listen, stop it. Matte kudasai, please. I'm begging. No, not matte kudasai. I'm just begging you to stop. Enough is enough. Because then you expect this person to be like extremely beautiful. Like he's infuriatingly beautiful, excruciatingly beautiful, like an angel. And the thing is, when you describe him as an angel, my mind immediately goes to like a biblically accurate one. So I'm just imagining Robert Pattinson's body just covered with eyes all over. And he's just standing before her and going like, fear not. Like, if you're gonna say angel, that's where my mind is going to go. I'm sorry. Like, and how are you a devout Mormon? Is she a Mormon or is she like a Christian? I don't know what's her step. I think she's a Mormon. Okay, I don't know enough about Mormonism, but aren't they supposed to be like very, very religious? So would she also not immediately think of biblically accurate angels when she describes Edward as one? This is a very, very strange connection, but I'm just saying, like, enough is enough. Stop it. Oh my god. Edward is so pretty. Oh my god. No man can ever be as pretty as Edward. I mean, I get the whole idea behind the vampires being attractive is so that they can, lure in their prey, as they say it. Like, people are so unconsciously attracted to them, they do anything. Okay, not do anything. I don't think, no, people would die for others. This is a weird world we live in, isn't it? And this is a weird conversation. Like, I'm just saying, like, good god, enough is enough. And the thing is, we're only at like chapter 11, so immediately to thrones. That's hilarious, but there's also multiple forms of biblically accurate angels, including the more human looking forms. Yeah, I know that. But my mind still goes to the biblically accurate ones, the thrones, as you say, because my brain cells try to make things as complicated as possible. So now I'm just thinking like you see all those memes, right, about characters and that artists make of people falling in love with biblically accurate angels and like calling them cute, and then the angels, like the eyes start blushing. So I'm just like imagining Edward as that, and I don't know, that just makes the experience better, because otherwise I don't think I would be able to stand Bella going on and on about how beautiful he is. I'd just be like, Bella, either you shut the fuck up or I'm about to fight you. Like, I'm about to go into this book and beat your ass. And I'd probably just get killed by a vampire, which, oh well. As long as I get to beat her ass, I'm okay with it. Then I'd happily welcome death. Like, okay, I've done what I wanted to do. I'm ready to go. Let's go. But then if I went into this book, I would have to live in the world of Twilight, and that's kind of horrifying in its own self. Like, I like reading the book and like watching the movie because like they're funny. But if I had to live through it, like live through this, this story would end very, very differently. That's for sure. Like, I don't think like Bella, I would be curious about Edward and like go like, oh my god, why is this kid I don't even know glaring at me? I'd just be more like, why is this like, why is the little bitch baby trying to pick a fight? Does he want to taste these fists? There would be no romance, because I would be like, does he want to taste these fists? And then he would leave, and then I would I would take a nap, forget all about it, and then just go on with my life without a care in the world. Don't take that chance. Yeah, you're right. I don't think I'd even give him the like, if he like starts being polite to me and starts talking to me also, I'd just be like, okay then, why is this person talking to me? Like, please text, don't call. Oh my god, no, being in the world of Twilight would be so bad. Do you know why? Broadband. There's no high-speed internet, there's only... What is it called? God, I'm forgetting what it's called. But yeah, there's no high-speed internet. That's just connected to connecting to the... What is it called? Fuck, why did I forget? Let me like look this up real quick. What is old school internet called? What? Name. That's not what I asked. I'm like, old school internet name, and the internet and Google is like ARPANET, and I'm like, what the fuck? And they're like, oh, this was the internet used in the Cold War, and I'm like, not that old. Yes, dial up. Thank you, Sue. It's like you hit that one button like old, and it just goes very, very old. Yeah, so in the world of Twilight, you don't have high-speed internet, right? You just have dial-up. I would go insane. like once you've gotten used to high-speed internet, I can't ever imagine just sitting there and hearing all those sounds the dial-up makes before connecting, and like the thousands and thousands of years a page takes to load. Oh my god, you would have to email people then. Because there's no Facebook, there's no WhatsApp, there's no Discord, there's just emailing. I remember emailing. It wasn't fun. Oh yes, I sometimes forget how old Twilight is, I know, right? Like, when they were describing how many CDs Edward had, and I'm like, who even uses CDs in this day and age? And then I remembered, oh wait, these people don't have a Spotify. They have to just buy a CD. I used to have CDs when I was a kid. Linkin Park and Kelly Clarkson. No in between. Just Linkin Park or Kelly Clarkson. And every time, like, and we didn't have, like, we had a CD player, but I like to bring them with me when like we were in the car. So every time my parents could either expect like depressing music, I've become so numb, I can't even feel you there, or they could expect Kelly Clarkson. Not that her songs weren't like sad, but it actually had kind of the same thing, because it went from Chester screaming to Kelly hitting high notes, so it was like the same for them. They were just always so confused. Like, they were like, what is happening here? I had, how many albums did I have? I had Minutes to Midnight, which I played until the CD stopped. Like, it just started having this horrible sound after a while. So RIP to that CD. Moment of silence. Anyways, moment of silence all over. Yeah, I had Minutes to Midnight. I think I had Kelly Clarkson's debut album. Clarkson. Right. Oh no, I had. Yeah, I had. No, I had Breakaway. I had Breakaway and I had All I Ever Wanted. Yeah, and and these albums used to come with a small booklet with all the lyrics written in them. So I would exchange them with my friends. Like one of my friends had the My December album, so she gave me the My December album's lyric booklet, and I gave her the All I Ever Wanted one, so we could copy down the lyrics. Like why did we do that? We used to do that a lot. I don't know why. Yeah, with Linkin Park, I had Minutes to Midnight. I think I had Hybrid Theory because I just wanted the first one as well. I felt like if I did that, I would be so cool. Like, haha, look at me. I have their first album. I am an old-time fan, unlike you newbies. Oh god, why was I the way I was? If I could go back to the past and punch myself, I would. I had Meteora as well. Yeah, I had Hybrid Theory, Meteora, and Minutes to Midnight. Though for some reason, Minutes to Midnight was my first album from Linkin Park. Now made sense, but yeah. How did we go from Twilight to this? What is happening? Oh yeah, we were discussing all the things in Twilight that just simply would not work for me. Oh wow, I had this Punk Goes Christmas album, how I found Set It Off, and I had a lot of movie television show soundtrack albums. I wasn't allowed to buy a lot of albums, like it was like when I begged, because it was like you can either buy books or you can get an album, decide. So I usually used to lean towards books, but yeah, otherwise if I got an album, I would just play it all day long in our living room because that was the place where we had our CD player, and it would just drive my mom insane. She'd just be like, stop it! Now I use headphones and even that drives her insane. I'm just like, how do I win this? If I play it out loud, you have a problem. If I use headphones, you have a problem. Like, where do we go from here? And like, I think the other thing we used to do at that time, because we didn't have anything like Spotify or something, was I used to take my mom's phone and I used to pick the recording option, and then I used to watch my favorite anime. So when the anime's theme song started, I would hit record to like get an extremely low quality recording of the theme song so I could just listen to it on repeat. And it was horrible. Like the recordings were so low quality, like absolutely low quality, because in the background I could also hear my mom screaming for her phone. She's like, where is my phone? What are you doing? And I just feel like, mom, shh. It's all there in the recording. And I could do it again, but I was lazy, so I didn't. And I got an iPod, but even with iPods you had like a limit, like you could only have like a certain number of songs. I had the iPod Nano, right? That's what it called, the iPod Nano. No, not the Nano then. No, that's too big. Oh, Shuffle. Yes, Shuffle was the smallest one. Like just this tiny little blue colored Shuffle that you could just clip onto your shirt and walk around. Yeah, I used to have a Shuffle and used to take it everywhere with me. And unfortunately I couldn't get iTunes on my computer because like my computer was like rusty and old. So my friend also had a Shuffle, so I used to use her iTunes to get all the songs I wanted. And that's why there was like a limit of what songs we could add, because even her computer couldn't download as many songs as she wanted. Oh god. And they used to call me iPod girl, because everywhere I went I had my iPod clipped to my shirt and my headphones in my ears, and I wouldn't listen to anyone. They'd just be screaming my name and I couldn't hear them because I had my headphones on. I did it before oh my god, He has his AirPods on. Meme. Shuffle. I also remember like we found this one website where you could specifically download anime theme songs. Like the full version of them. And I think for one of my birthdays, one of my friends downloaded my favorite songs, burnt them into the CD and gave it to me. And I was like, oh, thank you. I love it. Oh god, I don't even know where the CD is anymore. I don't even know where my iPod Shuffle is anymore. Wow. Apparently they're selling iPod Shuffles for just like 9k. Which is like way less than what I originally got it for. And I'm just like, seriously? Is that all it takes? It's so sad that Apple stopped making them. Like, what was wrong with the Shuffle? What's wrong with just having a tiny little thing where you can just listen to music? Why does everything now have to be like, oh, you can listen to music, oh, you can check your heart rate, oh, it's a watch, oh, you can call people through your watch? And I'm like, who wants to do that? Who out there is calling people through their watch? Does Apple even sell iPods anymore? Let's see. iPad, iPhone, Apple. Oh, they don't. That's sad. Maybe I could go into the Twilight world just so I could get an iPod. I generally don't like Apple stuff, but come on now. People are still unboxing iPod Shuffles in 2024. Where the hell are you getting them? I want one. Like, it's stupid, but I want one. I miss my Shuffle. Most people use apps on their phone, so iPod became pretty obsolete. Yeah, I guess. But still. I feel like that would really help me de-stress. Because like when I'm just like trying to listen to music, I have a habit of just like scrolling through. I want to find my old Shuffle now. I know, right? Like I have a habit of like scrolling through different social media instead of like focusing on de-stressing, and that becomes stressful in itself. I mean, having an iPod, you could just clip it on and just listen to music and not worry about anything, because it literally can't do anything else. Though it would be annoying not being able to not being able to pick the song you want because it doesn't have a screen where you can pick one. You can just click next. Wow, someone's selling their damaged Shuffle on Etsy. How many Shuffles does this person have? Like, should I trust this person? Or so should I just let it go, because like right now I'm all like, oh my god, Shuffle, and by tomorrow I'm just gonna forget what the fuck I was going on and on about. Yeah, I probably will forget. Maybe one day in one of the many boxes we have in our house, I'll find my Shuffle. Who knows? Don't think it'll still work, but sad. Now I've been nostalgia baited by my own joke, actually. I've done this to myself. I have no one else to blame. Can't even blame Stephanie. No, actually, I can blame Stephanie for putting such dated references in her book. Like, do I want to know Bella's journey to starting up her dial-up internet? No one needs to know that. But she put it there, so it's her fault. Also, apparently, it seems that Stephanie's not going to be writing any more books from Edward's point of view because she said that Midnight Sun was hard enough, which is very, very disappointing because Midnight Sun is amazing. I still have to make the video on it, but I will someday. Believe me. I have one line written in my draft. Yeah, so she said that she's not going to write any more like books from Edward's point of view, which is so sad because like his point of view is so damn unhinged. And I'd love to see all the things happening like and his thoughts on it. Especially New Moon. Breaking Dawn. That would be so funny. Yeah, so but she's not gonna write anymore, which is sad. Apparently, but though somebody, from what I heard, somebody else wrote books from Edward's point of view, not Stephanie herself, which makes no sense because, like, huh? Stephanie Meyer has manga? Nani? What is this? It's just Twilight in Japanese. Oh, it's just Twilight in Japanese. Hello, how are you? I guess I'm pretty sure that I did see that somewhere. I'll have to look into it, but yeah, dude, you can't see the name of the stream and then expect something else. Like, come on now. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess. I have to look into it because I can't remember. I remember like seeing a video about it, but like I can't specifically remember what they were called, so yeah, I'll have to look into it. I'm pretty sure I can find it easily though. Shouldn't be hard. But anyways, it's soon going to be time for me to go to bed, so I'm gonna wrap things up here. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I will see you sometime this week. What do you mean I can't expect Power Rangers and Twilight stream? So okay, so I think it would be better if you went with Godzilla instead. Man, I want to see Godzilla and Twilight. That would be amazing. Like, they have just the world's stupidest love triangle going on, and behind them, Godzilla is just destroying everything. Really puts everything into perspective, doesn't it? And we have our third Twilight AU. We have the Mosquito one, we have the Charlie one, and now we have the Godzilla one. Amazing. The things you can do in the last 5 minutes of a stream. And you can just throw in Power Rangers in there as well. You can just throw in Power Rangers there as well. Would the Power Rangers fight Godzilla, or would they fight with Godzilla? I guess it depends on who Godzilla is fighting. Unless the one Godzilla is fighting is the Power Rangers. Which I don't know if it works, because in my head Godzilla is always like the good guy. So we need another enemy. It can't be Kong because you have too many people cheering on for King Kong. People love the monkey. So we need someone else. Mewtwo probably. Or Ghidorah again. Like, there's so many Godzilla enemies. Yeah, so love triangle, behind love triangle, Godzilla Power Ranger team up to beat down whichever kaiju enemy there is. That That kind of sounds amazing. I kind of really want to watch that. And since in Twilight it is mandatory that everyone, anything that exists, like anything dangerous that exists, it exists just to solely kill Bella, then we would need this Godzilla enemy to also want to solely kill Bella. That would really spice things up. Like, personally, I would sacrifice her. Oh god. Then we can go on with my Charlie and Edward fanfic instead. It's brilliant. Anyways, I've rambled on for long enough. I am going to wrap things up here. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Bye.